if you want to be good at a whole course and not just on the very control that you are at, you need to have a strategy that minimizes the risks. So
Right.
for the remainder of the races, I started instead taping my SI card around my finger. Also, I was planning on going like over here, but I guess this was fine as well. I don't know what kind of, I did some kind of misread there. So here, just making sure that I take a clean line as possible going here. Then I have this path.
Before we start the chat with Noel, I want to tell you something that you've probably not expected. I'm launching a new project called Orienteering Academy, and that's going to be a paid project where you can join a mentorship, so to say, to help you prepare for one of the 3 major competitions next year, either World Masters Champs or Junior World Orienteering Champs or European Youth Orienteering Champs. So if you're aiming for one of these competitions as the main event next year, or you want to get a specific guidelines and preparation tips for other important competition that is also happening next year, and you want to do your best over there, consider signing up for the waiting list. The link will be down below. You have to go to the web page, and then on the web page you can sign up for the newsletter. Depending on how many people we will have, we will either start this project from the beginning of January or not. Basically, the content of the project will be 7 webinars during which I will focus on delivering as much value to you as possible from the orienteering perspective. So we will be learning how to learn better and faster, how to improve your orienteering technique, and all the things surrounding the preparations for the most important competitions will be included there. Also, there will be specific video for all of the groups. So if you're a master, you will have your own video. If you're a JWOC contestant, you will have your own video, where I will be going into the analysis of the terrains of those competitions and trying to figure out what is going to be the crucial part of running in that kind of a terrain, which orienteering techniques will be the most important, and how to improve them. So that's something that is going to be focused specifically on those 3 competitions. Also, you will also be able to choose a more personal approach where we will be working together more often face-to-face and focusing on the mental preparation, on the technique preparation, on the physical preparation, but also you will also be able to work on your dietary plans to minimize the risk of any kind of injuries, and to, of course, raise your general health level so that you have the strength to approach the competition from the best possible angle and do your best. So if this sounds like something interesting, check the webpage down below and let us know if this is something that we should be spending our time on. There will be a separate video with more details regarding the project, but for now I don't want to take more of your time because we have a wonderful chat with Noel, with some root analysis as well. I really had a blast talking to him. I think we've spent altogether almost 2 hours chatting, also outside of the recording. And I have to say, this lad is definitely something you want to see and listen to, because I have been really, really impressed how mature his way of thinking is for a 19-year-old. Check it out. Welcome, everybody. Today I'm meeting with Noel Braun, almost 3 times gold champion from the 4th edition of this year's JWOC. And we're going to have a chat today about his road to these spectacular results during the World Champs. And also, we are going to do, hopefully, a very interesting route analysis, trying to show you how the best ones in the field out there, at least in the juniors class right now, how they choose the route choices and what they think about. So that will be my goal. And if this is your first time at this channel, this is Into the Forest I Go. And here we are talking about basically orienteering and everything that surrounds with this amazing sport. We're trying to have some education, but also a lot of fun along the way. So hopefully this is exactly what it's going to be. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you.
I'm super happy to have you here. The JWOC has finished like 1 week ago, so we're pretty fresh. And you've definitely been one of the best runners in the men's category over there during the championship. You've proven it on the relay. You've proven it definitely on the long distance. You've also, I think, proven it on the middle distance. And I know that there has been an accident, which we will get to a little bit later. But right now, I want to focus a little bit more on orienteering itself and your road to this year's JWOC. So if you can tell me a little bit about how orienteering started from you and how big of your life this sport is, how big part of your life this sport is.
Yeah. Well, orienteering has pretty much always been a part of my life, and I've always really enjoyed it as a hobby. My parents like started to take us, and by us I mean me and my two sisters, to orienteering competitions already when we were little, and so it's kind of always been a thing. That when I was younger, I used to live abroad, not in Sweden. We lived in Italy between when I was 6 and 9 years old, and then in South Africa for 2 years after that, where orienteering, of course, wasn't as big a sport as it is here. But we still like practiced it and went to competitions now and then. It was a lot of fun, and did some running as well. Did some track running when I was in South Africa around 11 years of age. And when we finally got home after our like 5 year adventure, then that's when like I really started to train orienteering more often, and started to get better at it as well. But
I see. I'm always curious about people like traveling for longer periods of time. So if you can tell me, what have you been doing in South Africa?
Well, I think my parents thought it would be fun to live somewhere else and see some other part of the world, and my dad he got a possibility to travel with his job. So first to Italy, and they thought that we might stay there for 2 or 3 years, and then it became 3, and then he got another possibility to go on a project in South Africa for 2 years. So it was basically my dad's job that allowed it.
That's
And
awesome.
so we children went to school like normal.
Do you speak Italian?
I do a little bit, yes.
Okay.
It was quite fun at the JWOC I started talking to an Italian guy, and he was just so astounded, like, where did this come from? His jaw dropped. So that was pretty funny. So, well, of course, I don't speak a lot of Italian nowadays, but I still have it a little bit in me.
Cool. That's really, I think that basically this kind of travels is a huge gift for children when they get to pick up some languages other than their mother language, because it just simply helps a lot in life. And on top of that, you get to see lots of new places and a different lifestyle, really, right? And how people live in different parts of the world. And I'm pretty sure that South Africa probably was even more interesting than Italy in that matter, because I think the differences between South Africa and Sweden are bigger than between Italy and Sweden, right? Am I right?
Yeah, of course, there are very big differences in lifestyle and how the whole like the culture is, of course,
Exactly.
polar opposites. But it was such a great experience, and I really enjoyed living in South Africa as well.
Cool. All right, coming back to orienteering. So you've said that you've started focusing a little bit more on the sport when you were about 15, was it, right?
No, we came back to Sweden when I was 11,
Ah, okay.
and yeah, well, I started to become more competitive at around that age, because
Cool.
earlier on I wasn't really a competitive guy. When I was really young, I just like to do it for fun, or I've always been doing it for fun, even though I got more competitive. But in Sweden, there are like more possibilities to do orienteering training and actually get a good
Absolutely.
technique and compete a lot. And for example, my first year when I got back here is when I started to compete against Axel Elmblad. So we've been competitors ever since on like almost every race.
Uh-huh.
I always had lots of good friends and other good people to measure myself against.
It's always something that is really amazing about this sport, the people around it. But yeah, sure. So that tells you that okay, that makes sense. You've been training orienteering like competitively for quite a long time, so you should be at quite a high level at this point in time. But still, there are people that have been training orienteering for longer than you have been, and they are still doing worse in a forest with the map. So some part of your training and preparation and maybe road to JWOC itself probably contributed to your current form, your current capabilities. Tell me a little bit about the preparation for this year's World Champs. How did you approach this? When did you start preparing for it? How many times maybe you visited Portugal during the year to prepare for the terrains?
Yeah, so Portugal has, of course, been in my mind like for a long time. You can almost say since last year's JWOC.
Mm-hmm.
And but the first time I was in Portugal and started to do some specific training for that was we went there with our school because actually I go to an orienteering gymnasium here in Sweden.
Uh-huh.
And so we went to Aguarda for 1 week with the school in spring in March. So that was like when I got my first impression of the place. Yeah, so that was really good. And after that, I mean, I've been training like normal throughout the year, always trying to get better. And it was a very special situation this summer for me because I was sick on and off for plenty of weeks during the summer, and I was like half injured during the spring, so I didn't get that good a training background coming up until the sprint jaywalk.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was a pretty good thing that the race got postponed because I would have stood no chance in summer.
Well, not only from you, the same goes for the other star of the world champs, Susana Luzir, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so well, I'm pretty happy for that I got another chance. And so for round two for Forest Jaywalk in November, I was very ambitious with my plan. It was like the first time that I did like a very serious tapering session. So basically, I had the last 5 weeks leading up to Jaywalk. I was like using all my energy on doing the right things. But like the entire fall, I've been focused on because well, I know that my base level is high, but to work on the small things that would make it a little bit better, like
Yeah.
trying to taper so my physique will get a couple of percents better and work with my technique and uh, well, so as I said, the real job or when I started to focus on it a lot was like 5 weeks before jaywalk. Then I went into like a 3 week period of really tough training. Like I was doing more training of all kinds than I'd ever been doing before, basically. So I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to go as close to my limit as I could. So eventually, after like 1.5 weeks, I started feeling like I started feeling like bad, and I was sore going into every training. But I made sure just to stick to my plan and trust that this will work, even if it feels bad now. That's probably just a part of it. And I was just very interested to see if my tapering plan would work. So after 3 weeks of really tough training, I started to let go and do less training. And mentally, that was also when I said, okay, all my physical preparations are done. Now I don't need to think about the physical part anymore, and I stopped thinking about it completely. Now it's all about getting technically and mentally fit for the races.
Right.
And so we went down there with the to Portugal with the national team 1 week before the races, or almost 1 week. So we had possibility to do a few trainings there, and it worked pretty well because I use my same base technique there as I do in Sweden. Just need to know what the terrain specific characteristics are, and learn how to read the map in that part of the world, and some extra things to think about. And I was just really focused on every training. What do I need to look for? And afterwards, I would write down what worked and what didn't work so well, and try to every next training see what I could improve. So so that last week leading up to JWOC was golden, just to get the technical stuff in place, and also
Awesome.
getting the rest you needed from not just traveling the day before the races. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for going so deep into this. This was really amazing. I want to emphasize one thing that many juniors, I'm sure, are not doing. And you said that you're writing down your thoughts after the race, your conclusions, your maybe ideas for improvements for the next one. I think that it really works. It's super important to do that. And everyone who is like seriously thinking about improving, this is one of the best methods to do, because this puts your intentions in the right place. You're not just going out there, having a training session and coming back to chill and relax and enjoy your time, but you're actually putting your intentions where they should be, and you're focusing on the things that are the most important to you. And just putting it on paper or writing down it on a file on the computer, both works, and it's definitely something that I'm pretty sure has contributed a lot to your effort in terms of raising your technique level for this particular JWOC. But I want to ask about one thing. So you've mentioned that, and I think you are pretty lucky, you as Scandinavians in general, not you personally, but I think you are pretty lucky when it comes to this year's JWOC in Portugal, because the characteristics in general of the terrain in Portugal are a little bit similar to the Scandinavian terrain. As you said, right, your basic navigation technique is quite similar. But you've also mentioned that you've been, it all comes down to the characteristics of the elements that you find in the forest that you can navigate by, and some small differences. So what kind of differences did you write down, did you come up with when analyzing the differences?
So a major difference in Portugal is that unlike Sweden, you can't just hit the purple line between the two controls without any plan. So in Sweden, that's basically what you do a lot of the time. You take your control and you start running along the line towards the next control, and like halfway there, you look at your map again and check where you are. So you just go straight, and even if there is some green area, you can like cut through them. You don't have to go all the way around. You can just um, so when you learn that in Sweden, I think it's pretty simple. You just hit your compass, and you check your map every now and then to see that you're on the right way, and then you're on the next control. In Portugal, you also need to use your compass a lot, but you need to make sure to have a plan when you're leaving the control. What kind of obstacles are there on the way? And I knew that the dark green areas are impossible to pass through. So they're basically forbidden area. And I realized on my trainings that I think it was a pretty good strategy to treat the middle green areas as pretty much forbidden as well.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be good at a whole course and not just on the very control that you are at, you need to have a strategy that minimizes the risks throughout the race.
True.
So it was all about the deciding route choices that were as safe as possible, that I knew maybe wouldn't win me that leg, but will cost me the least amount of time in the long run. So that was one thing, really working with route choices and avoiding the greens. And I also found that to be able to do that, to avoid all these small green thickets, you need to read your map a lot. Like, as I said, in Sweden, you can just hit your compass and you don't have to check your map that much. But here in Portugal, I was like holding my map with two hands. Uh, it felt like most of the time I was doing that, and I was just checking every feature I passed by to make sure I hit these small passages between the greens. And doing that, you can only like focus on the leg you are at right now. So the strategy I developed was that I'm 100% focused on the leg that I am on right now. And then after I take that control, then I look on the route choice for the next control. So that meant that sometimes I would have to take a full stop, but it's all about minimizing risks and mistakes.
Cool. Awesome. And I think when I was watching your GPS tracks, I think I could spot this in on some of the controls, that you actually were really slow leaving the control, which is exactly what you've mentioned right now. It explains it perfectly. Let me take a step back, coming back to your physical preparation. So you said that you've spent 3 weeks of the hard training. Of course, you've been training earlier as well. But I'm wondering what kind of level of physical capabilities you've been able to reach. So have you been able to do any track running before JWOC to test your speed?
No, I haven't specifically tested my speed this fall. And I don't do a lot of track running either, but every now and then we have like a 3,000 meter training in school, so I will participate in them. I did run on 8:53 on 3,000 meters this spring, so that's my personal best time there. But I don't put too much focus on them, or well, yeah, I don't put effort into being sure to run a good time when my shape is good. So I'm guessing I could push that a bit lower with good shape and good conditions. But to me, like your track times doesn't say so much about how fast you're in the forest.
That's true.
So
That's true, because
it's not super relevant, but it's still a lot of fun to do them.
yeah, I mean, of course, in a forest, there are many more factors that need to come into play, like your strength, your ability to go through the tough terrain. Sometimes also your bravery, right? Going down the hill and just not slowing down when you feel like maybe your head wants to. But when it comes to comparing the physical form, really the track times are the only ones. So that's why I'm asking about it. I know it's not a perfect measurement, but there is no other way of comparing someone else to yourself. And I'm sure many young athletes will want to check, okay, so Noel runs a little bit below 9 minutes on 3 kilometers, and I'm running 9.5, for example. So this gives them an idea the difference between the physical preparation, right?
Yeah, and so, that's why we love to do these 3Ks as well, because we love to compare ourselves to other people.
Exactly.
So
always.
It's still a lot of fun.
Always. All right. Yeah. So thanks for sharing. I think this is the last one before we go. Yeah, before we go into the analysis. So I want to talk about the situation from the middle distance. So when you look at the GPS and also at the TV covering the race itself, we can see clearly that not far before the end of the race, you suddenly stop in a green area, and you lose precious minutes over there while being ahead in the race. I think you were at that point in time a good candidate to win the middle distance. So what happened there?
So as you know, I lost my SI card. I would have it on like a safety line that was around my wrist, and then it was not in the SI itself, but in the like the band that goes around the SI.
Yeah.
It was in that, and then the safety line got like stuck in a branch or caught in a branch, and it basically ripped out the SI card from the safety line. So, and I think it also like slingshotted away because I
Yeah.
realized immediately when I lost it. So I just stopped in my tracks and looked at my wrist and started to look around. It was actually like hanging inside a bush, like 1 meter into the thicket. So I was running through like a clearing through the green area. Like it wasn't actually bad runnability where I was running because it was like the forest was cut and you were supposed to be able to go through there. So as soon as I realized that, I just try to stay calm and look around, and there was a lot of like branches on the ground, so I started to like lift these branches up and see if it had fallen down, and I tried to go over everything strategically. Like I searched there, where can it be, and thought where I might have lost it. So in the moment, it was all about trying to save the race as soon as possible and lose as little time as I could. So I was just like, I need to finish this race. I'm committed to performing as good as I can. Uh, so I just searched until I found it after near 3 minutes.
Wow. And it sounds like you didn't panic at all at that point in time.
No, I didn't. I was didn't actually ever get stressed. One thought that did come through my mind is not again. I was thinking, what a shitty way to lose a good performance. Of course, I didn't know that I was in the lead or
Yeah.
that it was going to be a medal placement, but um, somewhere after searching and I knew that time was running, I felt like, okay, this I'm probably losing the race. Mentally, I was still telling myself that this could still be a fight for medals. You never know
Yeah.
if you're 2 minutes ahead or 2 minutes behind. It's impossible to tell. So that's why I stayed calm and tried to do my best. But as I said, why I was thinking not again, because I was thinking about European youth championships last year
Yeah.
when I was also in competition for the gold medal, and then I made a precious mistake on the very end and took a wrong control, so I ended up being disqualified. So I kind of had the same feeling like I did then, like why does this kind of stuff happen? But uh, yeah, I just
But
uh,
yeah.
I just
But
tried
it
to focus on what was important at the moment.
cool. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a wishful thinking. I think this is a good way to phrase it. When you're telling yourself, oh, I shouldn't give up and might still be in contention for the medals. But I think it is a smart thing to do. I always try to do it as well. Like there's no point in giving up, really. There's no benefit from it. So I think it's better to even try to fool myself and into believing that there is still a chance rather than just give up, because I know that at the finish line, if I push hard till the end, first of all, I'm still learning and I'm giving myself an opportunity to tackle the controls that are still ahead of me with the full speed, which will give me an important feedback, right? If I still do any mistakes rather than taking them slowly. Second of all, as you said, you never know. So it might be partly fooling yourself, but we've seen things happening in orienteering, right? It's a sport that is full of surprises sometimes. So you never know. But I think that's definitely something that you should have done. Another thing that I want to tell you is that we've actually had a very similar story in the Polish team during the European Youth Orienteering Champs that were in Poland some years ago. And it was a long distance. And we had a girl from the team that has been running really, really well. And she was also leading the race at a point in time. I think that, like, comparatively, I think when she lost her SI card was similarly in terms of how far into the race was it as it happened to you. So it was definitely after half of the race. And similarly, like yourself, she just was going through some bushes, and the SI card got caught by a branch, and it slingshotted. And she's been searching for it for more than 5 minutes. She couldn't find it. She came back to the finish line crying. So yeah, these things happen, and you're definitely not the first one losing the gold medal just because of pesky SI card. By the way, did you have it just on the wrist, or did you have it on the finger as well?
I had my SI card itself on the finger.
On the finger, and the band was on the wrist.
Safety line was going around.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I've been having my SI card for the longest time. Never had any problems with it, so I didn't expect that to be a problem. Like, before doing a race like this where you really, really want to perform, you try to go through every possible thing that could go wrong. Like,
Yes.
you have your extra compass, and you triple knot your shoes, and try to think, like, is there anything that could go wrong? And in my mind, I just wasn't expecting that it was possible to lose my SI card while having it in that line. But luck favors the prepared, and I wasn't prepared for that situation. Now, after I learned the hard way that isn't a good way to keep your SI card. So for the remainder of the races, I started instead taping my SI card around my finger. And that's a super secure way to keep your SI card, actually.
That's
Like,
something I haven't seen yet.
The only way you're losing your SI card then is if your finger rips off.
Yeah.
So it's not happening. So
that's how
that's
what
happening. I will be doing from now on.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay, so I want to go into the course analysis. I think let's do middle and long.
So should I play it?
Yeah, play it.
And do you want me to go through, like, as I'm running what I'm?
No. We probably have to stop sometime.
Yeah.
By the way, you were talking about running along the purple line. That's exactly a good example.
Yeah. So like, going to like the first control here, it was almost a bit unexpected to, I think, have such a free control as the first one. I was expecting that it would be like a difficult route choice or something you need to avoid, but my mental strategy was, for every control, you need to check under the line, is there a crag or a green thicket that you need to avoid? And if there is not, then you can probably just run under the line. And all this is just such good runnability. There's nothing stopping you. You need to make sure where you are to not go straight on the rock face here. But otherwise, yeah, you can just do it the Swedish way and just hit your compass and try to find a few things along the way.
Right. So what was the critical part of this first leg?
So the only real place you need to have your heads up is when you're going down here, because you don't want to lose precious time going straight on the cliff, right? But the stuff I'm reading on is a lot of things. Like, I'm not just like I would do at home. I would probably just run and check where I am here and check where I am here and then hit the control. But here,
exactly, that's what I was thinking I would do.
Here I'm just reading my map a lot. I'm checking my compass, and this area in the beginning was very open, so you could just kind of go to the top of this hill, and then you would see how the contours went over here. So you could go on the side of this hill, and then I would check these boulders, I think, so that I knew where I was going down. And once again, very open area, so you could see this from afar. And the thing is, you also need to check your compass all the time, because if you're not doing that, you might think that you're seeing this, but you're looking at this instead, and you will go the wrong way. So I'm always looking at my compass first and then lifting my eyes and see what I can see. And so it's just going on the side of that. Then once again, looking for details, going down here, I think that the gray areas are super clear and very well mapped. So I was using those a lot. So I was using the gray areas, and so that you have like this gray area was like my final safe point. And then I can just go in there from the side of that.
Okay,
It's just
but by the way,
tripping.
didn't you have maybe problems sometimes with distinguishing between green areas and yellow areas? I think that for me, sometimes they look really similar. Like
Between
the
the
green
gray and
area was,
yellow, or
yeah. So the yellow, like an open area. I've been to Portugal several times this year as well, and sometimes I had a feeling that they are really similar. So the thing that distinguished the gray. Did I say green? I meant gray. I don't know. But
you said green once, but I
yeah, sorry.
understand.
So I meant gray. So the gray area usually was just the rock underneath your feet, but the yellow area usually sometimes the only difference was that there was some grass on top of the rock, and it wasn't easy to distinguish between those two. Did you have the problem as well?
I think it was clear almost all the time. I had a small incident on the long distance where I couldn't distinguish between the yellow and the gray. So I can go through that when we're going through the long distance, what happened there. But here, I think it was clear. Where it was bare rock, it was, as you said, just completely bare rock and nothing
Yeah.
else. Whereas there are some, this is also, I think there probably was some bare rock in this yellow area as well, but there are also some bushes and grass and stuff like that. So that's one thing that you'd learn during the model event and some of the trainings was
Exactly.
that what it looked like. So still a pretty good thing to read on, I think.
Yeah, I think that the gray areas are definitely one of the best features to orienteer by in Portugal. All right, let's move on to the second and third.
Well, so here again, I've learned that these short legs you also need to be really concentrated on, because it's easy to think that, okay, I can just run straight, take this one and start thinking about the next one. But as I've already said, my strategy is to take one control at a time. So I made sure to read the map carefully all the way here. Since there are no things in your way, it's good runnability. You have there's basically no other option than to run straight. So once again, you have your compass, and then you can kind of check where on this ridge you are. If you hit your compass good, you know that you have these boulders to your left of you, so you can just check that and then just keep going compass from here basically, and you can kind of see this feature.
How do you feel, by the way, about difficulty of the middle distance, the relay, and the long distance? I haven't been there. I mean, I've been traveling with the Polish team, as I said, I think 4 times to Portugal this year, but I couldn't go for the November JWOC part. But just looking at the maps, I feel like the middle distance terrain was actually probably the easiest navigate with on.
Yeah, it's like we've seen so far into this race. You can just run along the line all the time. And the most difficult part in Portugal is navigating when there are these tricky cliffs and green areas that you have to do like zigzag in between. So
yeah,
I was definitely ready for a more tricky middle distance course. And as a whole, it was a lot easier than I would have expected.
Yeah.
So that was also, I was reading my map carefully all the time, and I was always expecting there's going to be some surprise at some points where it will favor the ones who are reading their map carefully all the time, because this part of the course, it really allows you to maybe let go a little and just run faster and not read as carefully. but I was ready for. I thought this might be a trick by the course setter to just allow us to run really fast in the beginning and then come with a really difficult leg. So, um, but then it just kind of never really came to a point where there was a big surprise in the course. It took one control at a time, and of course there was like one leg here where you had to think a little bit more, but
Or choice?
it was no. Uh, like no big troublesome route choices along the way. So
Right.
it
And
was
maybe,
it was a lot more easier than I would
yeah,
have
and
expected.
this area after the asphalt road, it looked a little bit more green and maybe less visibility. Was it
Yeah,
more tricky?
yeah, this was more difficult for sure. And since you're running here and you see that the map all of a sudden becomes really green, that's also when you need to switch your focus up and remind yourself that okay, there are going to be still a few tricky controls here towards the end. So you really need to focus and maybe start reading the map even more intensely than you did before. So
Sure.
if you keep that in mind that you need to switch up in these last few controls and not just think that the course is over, then it's not a problem. You can just read your map carefully and take these controls. But I think that's at least a good way to end the course with some of these tricky controls in the green
I think so
areas.
too.
But maybe it would have been fun if even more of the course was in this kind of tricky areas.
Yeah, definitely for many people.
Or more fun, but more challenging at least. I mean, this was super fun to run as well because it was just such beautiful terrain. So,
Yeah.
like, I was enjoying myself as I was running, and I think like, wow, this is actually astounding to run here. So, where we at? Looking on the third control here.
Yes.
Um, Basically the same thing. I haven't mentioned it before, but I'm also checking my control descriptions before every control. Partially because when there are a lot of features in the ring, I need to be able to tell what feature I have, and also knowing what side of the rock or the cliff it is, it allows me to feel a lot more secure taking the control, so that I know that, okay, we'll be on that side, and I run around the rock and it is exactly where I expect it to be.
Yeah.
And so it gives a feeling of security and you can kind of go faster through the controls. So I'm always taking a glance at my control description before checking the controls. And this one is also no problem. Compass first, then you check the gray areas. Just kind of leads you into the control.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Um, this next one, I put a little thought into uh, my route choice. I talked about minimizing risks, and I don't think that running just straight along here through these areas is that good if you're trying to minimize risks. Of course, you can avoid the middle green areas if you're like very surgical here, but this just looked like such a clean route to go a little bit lower in the beginning.
True.
Probably you can get some of these gray areas and then kind of get around from here.
Less details you
And
need to focus on, right?
sorry.
It's less details you need to focus on, which means
Yeah.
that you can go a little
Yes.
bit faster.
Yes, it is. And then I knew where I was at this point. Then I made a small mistake. I looked up and I thought I saw like a cliff formation here. So I went to that thing first, but quickly realized it was a minor time loss, like up
Yeah.
to 10 seconds at most. And then I think this is the first time where I took a full stop. Um, so I really stopped here because I say there's a lot of stuff happening on this leg. I want to kind of find a clean route that to make sure I won't get stuck anywhere. I was kind of thinking about maybe going
Mm-hmm.
uh, down here also, but in the end I thought that this is just such a clean line with kind of nothing in your way, and you can kind of go around the re-entrant, and you also get to take the control from above here in a really nice way. It just felt the most secure and easy to do.
Sure.
And again, nothing is stopping you, so this is just pure compass, and then I could see like this feature from afar. So I know since my compass is always right, I just run in that direction, and I check this thing, and then from here you can already kind of see this next hill over here. So no problem. Checking the description to know exactly where to hit the control so you won't accidentally go down here or something like that.
Yep.
And 7, also no problem. You can use this path a little bit to get some easier running, and then once again, I'm reading my map a lot because I don't accidentally want to go too close to the cliff, for example, and get stuck in this dark green area. So I'm checking where I should run to, yeah, to hit the control without problems. And I was a bit slow going into this control, lost a few seconds to some people who might have read their map a bit less and just kind of ran and found a good line. But I'm always trying to, as I said, take one control at a time and read carefully so that I won't make any mistakes. And
yeah, as you said, it was part of your strategy to rather focus on minimizing the risk in general in the whole course, rather than taking unnecessary attempts at perfect split on some of the controls.
exactly, yes. And so this next one here, there is this green you want to avoid, so naturally you want to go a little bit to the left. Once again, hitting your compass, and then there is some very clear features along the way. You can tell by the distance between these two paths roughly where you are, and then
Yes.
you have this again. And then I did a small mistake on the very end here, so that looks kind of funny when I'm going around like that. But it's a bit distorted, I think, because I was like going through here and then around the cliff that way. Because yeah, I thought it looked like it was over here at first. So then once again, taking a full stop. I did not want to risk going through these dense, I don't know what's called, green stripe areas, because I know that those can be pretty bad as well. You can get stuck in them, and not the dark green either. And there actually was like a small opening with light green here that I didn't see. If I would have seen that, then I would have gone straight out of the control. But I didn't want to risk getting stuck in this screen or this screen. So I thought that the safest way was to go back the same way that I came from and take my path a little bit and then go up here. So yeah, basically here there's just you don't want to run through any of this, and
No.
it was just like it was kind of a no-brainer to go up the hill at the very beginning. Like it's the very first route choice you see, and then I take some time to see, is there anything else going on that you can go down here, and there was nothing that made sense except this.
That's true.
So
also, if you look at the contours, it doesn't make sense to go any lower.
No, exactly. You're taking a climb, and you might as well take it right away instead of going lower in the beginning. And this is also, the climb doesn't feel too bad taking it
exactly
a bit like this. And I went off the path a little bit earlier than I was supposed to. I was planning on going like over here, but I guess this was fine as well. I don't know what kind of, I did some kind of misread where I went in here. Like maybe I thought this was the gray area or something, but I realized it immediately, so it was no problem. And then yeah, I'm not sure now if this was correct. I don't remember. I think it is. Yeah, so I just jumped down the cliff where there was white. Make sure not to go into these areas, and looking up to see that it's possible to go down here. And And kind of just pushing through here was like just half a meter gap between the fence and the rock, so that was kind of fun. And this last part is once again the same kind of basic orienteering that we had in the beginning of the course. It's just using your compass, looking up, and getting these features. You get like this thing here, and you get the gray area here is very apparent, and you also see the rock features. So just reading the map a lot to make sure that I get the control perfectly instead of making a like small mistake in the very end. So still reading my map intensely all the time. And also two short controls without route choices. Again, same thing, just lots of compass and map reading. Using the gray areas to my advantage. To the 12 here, yeah, you just want to avoid all the small green areas, and yeah, here was like the best way to do that. You can go through here. I mean, these green stripes are fine if they're not dense like they are over here. So going here was just no problem. You could see the rock from the asphalt road, so you could just go in there, and then this whole what it's called, this ride or this hill that goes out here.
Yeah, it's like the ridge of the hill, right?
Yeah, the ridge, exactly. It's just you can just go on top of that and use it. Still checking for all the details I see along the way. So I would see this gray area and then carefully hit the control with my compass from there.
Nice. By the way, I think that the girls had a more difficult entry into the green area. You actually had an easier control.
Yeah, right. They came somewhere more from this way or something like that.
And also their control was a little bit like closer to your 13, which means that it wasn't that obvious to just go around a little bit. And it was the best route choice to go around a little bit in their case.
Yeah. And then you also had like this area of planted forest that really stood out from the rest. So I think that maybe a mistake that some people did, and including myself here going to the 13 control, was that if you looked up from the very beginning and looked for this, you could see it stand out quite clearly from afar. But throughout the rest of the course, I've mostly been using rock details and contours and stuff like that. So that's maybe why I mentally didn't put this in my plan. So I got somewhat of a bad compass out of this control because I was looking more at the contours, and yeah, then I realized I could see this, and I knew that I was a bit to the left, so it was no problem. Maybe a 10 or 15 seconds time was going
quick correction.
14 control. This is
I think this is where you lost the SI card.
This is where the magic does not happen. But this is still a critical leg. As I said, I've been avoiding the middle green areas, and so I didn't want to just go straight. I want to hit this narrow passage here, and I thought the best way to do that was to make sure to get this rock here and then go in from the very corner of it, and you should be able to hit that small passage. So I went out to the left like that, and then it looks like I'm a bit beside it, but there was a very nice clearing through here, so there was no problem with runnability. Yeah, I lost my SE card for quite some time, so I can even speed this up a little bit. Oh yeah, there I'm going.
Yeah, this last area, it was quite easy, wasn't it?
It was just back to the same thing that I've been doing all the time. And here, trying to surgically avoid the middle green areas. I didn't have such a good split here. It would have probably been smarter to go a bit more to the right through this. But yeah, I was just finding my way, you see, along these like white corridors where it was possible to not get stuck anywhere.
Cool. All right. Let's then switch to the long distance. All right, let's go.
Let's go. So quite an easy beginning of the course. I heard from the course that lots of areas of forest had been cut down here unexpectedly. So I think this was like a map update made the day before the races. So that was quite impressive. I think that they printed the map the day before. But same strategy as the middle distance, taking one control at a time and just using your compass. This forest over here was very clear, so it was no problem getting the first control from up here.
Yeah, as you said, it looks easy, just like the second one.
Yes, yeah. Second one, there are two route choices that look pretty much the same. You don't need to think so much about it. I thought that it looked nice to run to the right. I did that, and then this is like the first part that you need to be somewhat focused, taking the control, because it's into a green area. So it's just being sure where you're going from here, that you're by this rock, and then compass into the control, and also checking your description to be sure what feature you're supposed to have. And the third, I used this track for a little bit, so I went somewhat to the right, and also from here I had checked that I need to avoid this in the very end, so I need to go somewhat to the right.
Yeah.
So when I'm planning this leg, I'm not planning it like along the line as if I'm going here. I'm planning it as if I'm going here. So that makes sense to go a little bit to the right to get a good line.
Exactly.
And since there had been so much time in here in the beginning, I had a chance to take a few glances on this first long leg.
Nice.
So I knew kind of what to expect. I knew that there was this big area that you couldn't go through in the middle, and that there was like a path over here and a path over here. So I had a general idea of what I was expecting. Then I took a full stop here to make my decision. And it looked really good going around here. And I kind of made a decision that, okay, I think the middle green areas on the warm-up map in the model have been like somewhat fine. So I would try to go through this small middle green area here instead of going all the way around, because in my Swedish brain, it just looks so long to go all the way around instead of cutting through.
Yeah.
Which was kind of ridiculous, because in this kind of terrain, there's almost never a good idea to just do these small, cutting through these small areas instead of just going a little bit extra to go around. So I will see now where I'm going. Speed up a little bit. And that was actually fine, but still lost me around half a minute compared to just taking the track all the way around, keeping it simple. So that was a small mistake. And then going into the control from here is it's not that troublesome. I accidentally went a little bit far to the right at the very end. So again, minor time loss. This is also like a bit tricky coming down here to know, is this the gray area or am I on the yellow?
And basically the plan was to go up along the gully, right? Or is it down? It's down, sorry.
It's down.
It's down on the ridge of the hill.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
It's down on the ridge of the hill, and then catch the gray area.
Yeah. And this is a spot where you need to be careful, because you won't spend as little time as you can in this middle green, and you also don't want to go to the rock faces. So you kind of had to be very careful on your position going down here to go through exactly there where the green was as thin as possible. And from there, it's just going down the ridge. Back to where we were, this fifth control.
This one looks a little bit tricky.
It is a little bit trickier than you have this open area that is fairly easy to navigate, but you need to be kind of focused going into the control, because it is in this dense area of vegetation.
Exactly.
And then running along the slopes when it's this steep isn't usually such a good idea because it kind of gets slippery and it takes time. So I thought the better option was just to stay down here from the beginning and then go up here, so you didn't have to run here in the beginning where it's probably a bit worse runnability. And so here I was like, we're 100% sure where I was, and from here you need to be very careful with your compass, and you can kind of see these rock faces from here somewhere, so they help you to guide you into the control. Then I actually, before I saw this one, I saw another small rock up here, so that's where it appears to be a small mistake, but nothing big. Again, I could correct it right away. Again, you just check that you don't want to go through this stuff in the middle, so it's just a kind of a naturally you go a bit more to the left, and then this gray area helps you to navigate. And seventh control, nothing difficult. Eighth control, this also just looked very good to go around. There's I mean, there's a path here, but here you just get the control from above, and
exactly
just
right.
stupid to go down.
So theoretically, there was a route choice to the right, but the left one seemed a lot better.
Yeah, and especially from where this control is situated, like you need to go all the way out here, or I don't know, turn around some way again. So this was just kind of obvious, even though I was looking at both. And here, this is a big alarm seeing this. So you need to first of all make sure that you go through here in the right place, and after you've done that, you can see how you can do this control as easily as possible. This rock wall makes it easy to navigate in the beginning, and then from here you kind of need to stay with your compass, and you know that you're dropping like one curve and then staying on the same level. And again, I love these small gray areas and just reading on details a lot and checking my description.
Okay, so you've ticked that small green area of gray area.
Yes.
Okay.
Then here again, short controls, even though they're short, you still need to stay focused, because you can easily make mistakes if you're started to thinking about the next long leg while on this one. So one control at a time. And just go. Sorry, can you hear that noise in the background?
Very slightly, yes.
Okay, it's stopped now.
It's not as loud as you imagine.
It was kind of disturbing for me, just only, but it's stopped now, so no problem. So this one again, just carefully, and you have these contours as a great help. Like you can see the hill on the other side, you can see this re-entrant clearly, so you have a general idea where it should be, and then you kind of find these rock details on your way to make sure that you go straight into the control. And next we have a long leg, and it comes after some of these intense shorter legs. So you need to kind of take your time going out of the control. And I saw pretty quickly that I want to go up here in the beginning, because that's like the exit for all possible route choices. Like I thought maybe there you could possibly go here or up or something like that. Whatever you choose, you need to go here in the beginning. So I quite quickly I started going up here, and then reading the rest of the leg as I was going here. And I had no thought of going through this. It just seemed irrelevant to me, and so I kind of had the two options of going down to the left and going up here, and this seemed nice for not going down and losing any contours, and you just get a nice runnability. It's pretty short like that. Yeah, so here just making sure that I take a clean line as possible going here. Then I have this uh, path. There's a map flip over here. So you don't really get any time to prepare for this leg. So, and this is more part of the course where you get to relax a little, which is good to have more mental energy for the trickier controls that are to come. So you can kind of relax your brain a little bit, stretch your legs, and you still need to be make sure that you know where you are on the map, so you don't accidentally like keep running until here before you realize that you should have left the path. So
I love how instead of saying push hard, you say stretch your legs.
yeah, yeah, I guess that's kind of a fun way to say it. It's something we say in Swedish when we say sträcka på benen. That's what
Okay.
we say when when we get out to a big path, and then we stretch our legs.
Awesome.
Means
I
that
love it.
we really take longer strides. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And 13th, I looked up and saw that it looked pretty good to run along this boundary here. And that meant that you could get a nice line after that, going to the control like that. So I just exited like that. That was actually a really
Yeah, and a good
smart
attack
route.
point from the end of the field.
Yeah, absolutely no problem here. And 14 again, use your compass, and you need to avoid this middle green area, but you just kind of take whatever side of it makes sense when you're arriving to the control. And I ended up going a little bit to the right, so I took it from there. And let's see here. Then again, I took a stop, and it's a little bit similar because I've already used this path going to the 11th. So I quickly saw this route choice. I was looking at the possibilities to go here as well, but this looked like you would just avoid any tough climbs, and
Yeah.
this area that might be a bit slower to run through. So it was just good runability, clean line all the way. Basically, there are no risks taking this route choice. Like it felt like there was no possibility that you could lose a major amount of time. So
I agree. Yeah.
quickly decided on doing that. I don't try to shortcut these areas. I just go around the paths, make it simple all the way.
At least the GPS still shows that you're cutting some corners, like at the
Yeah,
end,
I'm
right?
cutting. If I go back just a little bit, yeah, I'm cutting the corners here because the forest is like super clean in here. But I didn't want to shortcut through here or something like that when I could like do it more simple. Like this is where I see the other path, and there's a super clean forest. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I cut it a little bit. And nice all the way here, and from here you need to start being careful again. Of course, you know that you're going down to this path, so it's not that tricky this part, but from here you need to start reading carefully, so you enter the green area in the right place, not too far down or too far above and lose time. So I'm kind of looking to the left to see if I can see like this yellow area or a cue over here that can tell me that I'm on the right level. And yeah, I think I could see this yellows over here. I was looking for it, so I knew that it was on the same level as that when I took the control.
Nice.
And avoiding the dark green and this green area as well was just a good choice to go down here. It was also simple because you have this rock wall. And from there, same strategy as always to read your map a lot. You can see this hill quite clearly. So you're going up to the top, but you also want to check your map so you do not get stuck in these green areas while going there. And then from the top, you know exactly where you are, and just check your compass. It can be a bit tricky going from above because it's kind of difficult to see what is what when you're coming from above. So it's very critical actually to use your compass instead of like looking and maybe seeing this re-entrant and thinking that it's that instead. So Um, and this next one here, just to avoid all the green that's in my way here, I just want to go like this. It's not a very difficult control.
Yeah, it's not a difficult one.
And this next one, also keeping it simple, going all the way up to the yellow instead of having to hit this path and risking like missing it by a little bit. So just going to the yellow instead, and that way I can also navigate pretty easily through here without having to deal with like this part here where there's a middle green area. And then you also get this really nice gray area, which helps you running into the control. Got stuck for a couple of seconds in the screen, but nothing too bad. And there's a few easy controls here going through the arena passage. Also, this one is no issues. So going through here, I heard from the people shouting the arena and from the commentators that I had a quite decent lead.
Yep.
And I knew that there were plenty of people starting after me, so that didn't have to mean that I was fighting for the gold medal. There could be some really strong people after it, but maybe it still played a little with my mind that, okay, now I should really keep it super simple and be super safe. And instead of doing my usual work with just doing my compass all the way here, this is where when I'm here, I knew where I was, but then I thought I saw like a little gray ridge here in this yellow area. It was actually just yellow, so I thought it was this, so I started going a bit more to the left, and kind of ended up on the wrong ridge going down to this cliff. Losing precious time, but I stayed calm as in all situations and looked around for these buildings down here and could quickly navigate back to where I was supposed to go. So that was like a 50-second mistake right there. And then just finishing up the race, basically.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. So it seems like, you really navigated, as you said, you do normally in Sweden, just taking into account some of the green areas. And then I loved also the approach where you know that the terrain is tricky, so it makes more sense to focus on the leg that you're running currently, even if you have to stop later on to figure out the route choice for the next one, because stopping for 5 to 10 seconds will always be faster than making a mistake.
Yes. And the thing that you said, that I'm using basically the same technique as I do at home, I think it's usually best not to overthink. Like some people might come to a new terrain and think, oh, I need to think about this and that and all these new things that I need to implement. But the thing that you do best is the thing that you usually do, that you're used to doing. So I'm during this race, I'm just doing what I do best and implementing some small changes to my strategy that will work in this terrain. But it's all about doing the same thing that you always do on every training, on every race, because if you can do the same thing on every training, then you can do it on competition as well.
Absolutely. I like how mature you are with your thinking of orienteering. Really, really, yeah, it impresses me. I mean, I work with a lot of youth, and it looks like you really did your homework throughout the years, and you know what orienteering is all about and how to tackle it. Nice. I love hearing it from young people.
Yes. I tend to reflect a lot as well. I'll think about, why do I run as I do, and why do I sometimes make mistakes and sometimes not? Because when it comes down to it, it's I kind of lost what I wanted to say right there, but I've always been reflecting a lot of my mental strategy. Like, what should I think during the race to do to like never make any mistakes, to do the same thing on every control.
And what does it boil down to?
Well, it comes down to thinking. Oh, I have the same like mental strategy for every control. It's instead of putting too much focus on what you're feeling like and your stress level and things like that, and trying to minimize things that distract you. I think it's good to have a mental plan that you can always lean back on, that when you're thinking, okay, what do I do now? I can always think, okay, there are these simple steps that I always do. I first check for route choice, then I look at my compass, and then I check for features along the way. And it's just those three things over and over again. And you can use them on every control on every course ever. So
awesome.
It's just
and for the record, you haven't seen the previous video on this channel, have you?
The one with Hannah.
Oh, okay, sorry, the one before Hannah. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Because I saw there was a video about
focus?
saying focus. I didn't. I only kind of skimmed through it, so I haven't had time to watch all of it.
Because that's basically what I'm saying over there. I think this is the strategy of getting back to your race when you feel like you're swimming away from what's important while running with the map. And that's exactly what you said, to think about the basics. And the basics are really simple when it comes to orienteering. It's like the execution of it that is difficult. And this is where you're starting to make mistakes, and losing focus is definitely one of the contributors to it. But if you're able to stay focused and control everything that's going on around you, you are really minimizing a lot of those risks that come with executing the route choices. Awesome. All right, I think we will wrap it up here. Oh my God, it might have been the longest video that we will have. but many people also requested that we do some route analysis with athletes. So that's why I wanted to do it. So I hope that people will like it. And if anybody is still with us at this point in this video, please let us know in a comment if this was something that you've enjoyed, and if we should do more route analysis like this on the channel, because this is really important. If you like the video, also hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, then absolutely subscribe to the channel. There's more interesting content, both in terms of the knowledge and fun, I think, as well, coming to the channel. So stay with us. And Noel, thank you so much for joining. It's been a real pleasure meeting you and listening to, as I said already, how mature of an athlete you are, and to discover your way of thinking. Yeah, I really like it.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a really nice chat.
I hope that you will be able to reach out for even more when you finally get to the senior level, but you still have one JWOC in front of you, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
Right. So I'll be definitely holding my thumbs for the for the races during the JWOC next year for you, and maybe see you sometime in the future, maybe doing some training camps, maybe doing JWOC, or maybe just somewhere online. Thank you so much.
Thank you.